Writing. The morning sun poured through the towering glass windows of one of the city's most prestigious corporate headquarters, casting golden reflections across polished marble floors where power, ambition, and reputation walked side by side. Employees in tailored suits moved with confidence, investors gathered with quiet authority, and guests waited for an exclusive leadership conference that could reshape the future of several major companies. Then, in the middle of the elegant lobby, one careless question shattered the calm. A sharply dressed guest glanced at a man holding the tiny hand of his young daughter, smiled with open mockery, and asked, "What's your position?" Before he could answer, she laughed, convinced that someone dressed so simply could only be a delivery driver or maintenance worker. What happened next silenced the entire building in a way no one would ever forget. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes kindness always matters, and subscribe to Heartline Stories if you believe that compassion, humility, and second chances can change lives. The man standing in the lobby was named Everett Hale. His navy jacket had been carefully pressed the night before, but years of use had softened its fabric. His shoes were polished until they reflected the sunlight, even though they were far from expensive. Beside him stood his 7-year-old daughter, Marin, wearing a bright yellow dress and holding an old stuffed rabbit that had accompanied her through every difficult chapter of her young life. Few people noticed the tenderness in Everett's eyes because they were too busy noticing what he lacked instead of what he carried inside. 5 years earlier, Everett had lost his wife during unexpected complications following a severe illness. Overnight he became both father and mother, protector and comforter, working endless hours while making sure Marin never went to sleep wondering whether she was loved. Life had not been gentle. Everett often woke before sunrise, prepared breakfast, braided Marin's hair after watching countless online tutorials, dropped her at school, and worked until late evening before returning home to help with homework and bedtime stories. There were months when bills stacked higher than hope, when he quietly skipped meals so Marin could enjoy fresh fruit or new school supplies. He never complained because every sacrifice felt worthwhile whenever his daughter smiled. People saw an ordinary single father. They never saw the extraordinary courage hidden inside ordinary routines. Years before, Everett had started as a junior analyst at a struggling technology startup. Instead of chasing recognition, he focused on solving problems that others ignored. While executives argued over profits, Everett listened to employees, customers, and communities. Slowly his ideas transformed the struggling business into one of the fastest-growing companies in the industry. Yet despite becoming one of the largest shareholders and eventually accepting the role of chairman, he refused the luxurious lifestyle many expected. He believed leadership was measured by character rather than appearance. That philosophy often confused people who judged success by watches, cars, and designer suits. As Everett waited for the conference registration to open, Marin tugged gently on his sleeve, fascinated by the enormous crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling. She whispered that it looked like a sky full of frozen stars. Everett smiled warmly because even after years of hardship, his daughter still found wonder where others saw decoration. That simple moment of happiness disappeared when the elegantly dressed guest approached with a dismissive grin. Her laughter echoed louder than she intended, drawing the attention of nearby visitors. She assumed Everett had wandered into the wrong event. Her eyes swept across his modest clothing before delivering the question that carried more judgment than curiosity. She never expected the silence that followed. Everett simply smiled. There was no anger in his expression, only quiet patience born from years of overcoming far greater pain than public embarrassment. Before he could respond, the conference hall doors opened. Suddenly dozens of senior executives, board members, investors, and international partners stepped into the lobby. Conversations stopped. One after another, every executive turned toward Everett. Then something remarkable happened. They all stood straighter. Several walked directly toward him with genuine respect shining across their faces. The company's president reached Everett first, extending both hands before thanking him for personally attending despite his impossibly busy schedule. Others followed immediately, greeting Marin by name and asking about her school project, remembering details that showed how deeply Everett cared about the people around him. The woman who had laughed stood frozen. Her confident smile disappeared as realization spread across her face. The man she had dismissed wasn't an employee searching for directions. He wasn't a contractor or courier. He was the visionary leader whose decisions had brought everyone together that morning. Yet the greatest surprise wasn't his title. It was the way Everett treated everyone exactly the same after being humiliated. He introduced Marin proudly, thanked the staff arranging refreshments, greeted security guards by name, and even complimented the custodians for keeping the building beautiful. No trace of resentment clouded his kindness. During the conference, Everett delivered a speech unlike the polished corporate presentations the audience expected. Instead of speaking first about market growth or investment returns, he spoke about people. He described lonely parents balancing impossible responsibilities, hardworking employees who quietly carried invisible burdens, and children who simply needed someone to come home every evening. He explained that companies become truly successful only when they remember that every employee is someone's parent, child, friend, or hero. Profit mattered, but humanity mattered more. The auditorium remained completely silent because his words came not from textbooks but from lived experience. Many executives later admitted that Everett's story changed how they viewed leadership forever. They introduced flexible schedules for single parents, expanded employee wellness programs, and created scholarships for children who had lost a parent. One man's compassion quietly reshaped thousands of lives because he understood suffering instead of pretending it didn't exist. The woman who had laughed spent the rest of the day reflecting on the assumptions she had made within seconds of seeing someone dressed differently than herself. Before leaving the building, she found Everett and sincerely apologized. Everett accepted without hesitation. He explained that everyone makes mistakes, but true character appears when people choose humility over pride. His forgiveness lifted a burden she had carried all day and reminded everyone nearby that grace is often stronger than revenge. Years later, employees still remembered the morning when appearances lost their power inside that shining glass building. They remembered the father who never allowed success to erase compassion, the little girl who saw stars inside a chandelier, and the executives who stood not because of wealth or status, but because genuine integrity deserves respect that money can never purchase. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to Heartline Stories so together we can spread more stories that remind the world kindness is never weakness. Special request, comment below with, "Kindness always wins," if you believe we should never judge someone's worth by their appearance. As Everett and Marin walked out into the bright afternoon sunshine, hand in hand, the towering skyscraper behind them seemed far less important than the quiet bond they shared. Titles fade. Wealth changes. Applause eventually disappears. But the love of a devoted parent, the courage to remain humble after success, and the willingness to forgive those who judged too quickly leave a legacy that outlives every office, every promotion, and every position. Sometimes the greatest person in the room is the one who never feels the need to prove it.